Hi, it's Warren Eagles. So you've just seen a promo, obviously shot, directed by Jason Wingrove, shot on Epic 5K. And it was an interesting job, so I just wanted to talk through some of my workflow and my thinking. Jason was at Sydney, I was in Brisbane. It's a one-take video. So if we go back here, you can see I've only got one file. And I was given 2048 by 1152 DPX, 25 frames. They'd converted from the RAW, from the Epic R3D files, and this is what I was sent up on a drive. It was too big to upload it, so I received it on a drive from the guys at FX PhD and from Jason there. So I've got one file, so there's no need to conform it. I don't need to scene cut it or anything. This is what I've got. And you can see straight away that there's a lot of interaction with iPads and devices coming in. Now, Jason's initial brief to me that he said it didn't look too bad straight off the bat as to what it was, as how it came sort of off the camera. And this is obviously probably just run out red log film, I would say, red color 3. And I sort of agreed when I first looked at it, but obviously some of the issues were, and we can see here that we can see problems with when some of the devices come up, they're a different color temperature and different exposure slightly. And what I found, the more I sort of started playing, the more I had to do with these device shots, because I'd get the look right on her. And if I just turn everything off here, Command Shift D, we can turn everything right off. And then what you'll see is, I just turned on number 1 back. So there was my sort of red log, if you like. There's obviously DPX here, and turn that off. So that was like my base grade, my balance that I did. And if I hover over there, it says I did it using primary balance and a primary offset. Didn't use any LUTs or anything I'd made here. This is just me balancing that out. Then I did a grade. So I did a grade in there, just lifted it up a little bit more, and I probably made it a little bit cooler and just lifted the exposure. Let's just turn all those guys back on. Now, this obviously wasn't my first attempt. As Jason was viewing in Sydney, what I was doing is grading up here in my shop in Brisbane, sending him the project file, and what he was doing was loading that project file. Obviously, he had the DPXs there, and he was reviewing it and making comments. He wasn't reviewing while I was actually grading it, so it wasn't a true remote session because he was away shooting another job. So what we did was I'd spent probably a couple of hours and went through it, then he'd review it and make some changes. Now, this wasn't my first attempt. I offered up a few different versions. So if I toggle through them here, that one was one I called, and you can see here I called it in Blue Shadows, which I felt was a little bit over the top. And she looked a little bit edgy in her skin tone, and she was a little bit underexposed. This is one that I called a warmer wash. So I just experimented and made sure that I wasn't missing anything with what I thought could work for her. Version 1 was the first thing I came on. Jason again said it felt a little bit underexposed, and I had to agree with him. A lot of the time when I'm grading these things, I'm really concentrating the eyes, especially with something like that, where her eyes are straight down the line of the camera a lot of times. So obviously, as we did increase the exposure a little bit and the overall balance, I go to where we ended up, which was actually the version called Thursday. Of course, we're only seeing one thumbnail here, remember, because it is 1 3-4 minute piece of material. All right, that's why there's only one thumbnail. There's no cuts in it. As you've done that, obviously what it does, it takes up the devices as well. So this is when I started to build a lot of these little dynamic sections that you can see here down in the keyframing area. These were achieved by a mixture of the tracker. So I would draw a shape. I'm the first to admit I'm not the world's best shape drawer. So I said to Jason, yeah, mate, I'll get in and have a go here. Some of them might be need to be rotated and things. So I would draw the shape, I track it, and then when it became very difficult to track, obviously the fast moving bits where the actual device goes off the screen, I'll just turn that off and on for you there. So the color temperature difference was something like that. So certainly improving that and making that more even to the background of the situation. So if I was to play that backwards in there, you'll see that will stay tracked on there. Then at the end of it, or the beginning of it, I would have to manually fix that up. Now, sometimes I would do that in the tracking area here, and sometimes it would be done here with a number of keyframes. You can see. They can use both, or you can just use one or the other. Sometimes I wouldn't use the tracker. It didn't work for me, so I just went straight for the keyframing area. Important thing is here though, you use this little tab here just to mark this up as color, and then you're going to be able to just keyframe that node. Now, I've got a number of nodes here. I must admit, normally wouldn't get into this amount of nodes on a music video, but obviously because it is one long take, I couldn't cut it up. There's no way to make this grade different. It's all got to happen on the same shot. So essentially each one of these is doing something else. So that one there that I showed you there, if I go on, we can look at something else. Just scrub down here. There'll be one coming up with a face there. So quite important, straight down the line there of Martha. So if I turn that one on, and she's in node 6, so she's there. When you see node 6, you see a little outline. You can see my slight rough drawing of the shape there, like that. Turn that off. Quite a different, cooler, slightly greener color temperature on that. It's just bringing it in. Drawing doesn't have to be perfect, because when you run it, you don't see it. Obviously we see it now in a still frame. You can say, well, maybe my shape wasn't perfect there, but obviously when we move it, we can get away with a lot more of those things, and you see the shape just hangs around on the edge of the screen. I did probably end up doing a few more than I intended, because more as I got into it, the more I found that I had to do more shapes. But I enjoyed the project. It was really good, but at times very, very tricky, because as I say, it was one piece of media and nowhere to sort of get the scissors in to break it. So at any stage you're working on the wrong node, then you could quite easily break something you'd done earlier. There's the selfie shot. That was down in node 12, is one of the last things I did, or 13. There we are. Yeah, so that really did need fixing, because that was blown out. Didn't quite look like. To do that, it looks like it's at the same time. Again, all of these tracked, so they all move off and on. 2 there. We ended up with about 12 or 13 nodes, I think, in total. Then right at the end, or passing it back to Jason again, I decided I just wanted to add, let's just go back to a shot of Martha so we can see her, a tiny little bit of blue there, just in my lows and in my highs. I did that in log grading. There was nothing wrong with switching to log grade, even though the first part of the balance had been done in primary color wheels. I switched that into log grading there and did that right on the end. I just tickled it very slightly. Lots of times during the grade I would go back to different little keyframe areas, different shapes, and affect those as well. Once it was done, save the project. As I mentioned earlier, just emailed that project as long as Jason loaded up and looked at Thursday and not any of my other versions, because he still had the ability to go back to the warm one and maybe say, oh, maybe you were onto something there or not. We decided on that. So then he could render Thursday in Sydney and finish the job. It was good fun working. It's always good fun working with Jason on this stuff, and I really like the tune as well, so I was keen to get involved. It was a very good tracking and keyframing exercise. You've got to be disciplined to do this with this amount of nodes. So I enjoyed it. It was a good fun job, and I hope you get a little bit of insight after watching this. Thanks very much. Any information you need on training, obviously Jason's helped me with footage for our FX PhD classes. They're actually on Resolve, so if you want to learn Resolve quickly, you can go there. Or if you want to do a classroom class, sit in a class for 3 days with other like-minded professionals, then just go to www.icolorist.com and check out what we're doing there with training. Thank you.